Thank you all for joining me and welcome to today's webinar, which is focused on using botanical ingredients in the ilike organic skincare products to help tame the acid mantle. This is a topic that is kind of very near and dear to my heart because ultimately I feel like regardless of your skin and what you're looking for, the skin's health is ultimately what's most important. If you're looking for results, you need to fix the health aspect of things, or it's not really going to help much when you use products for correction in your skincare. So that's kind of where our basics will start. And first, I'm just going to go through a couple of details. It's things that I know that you guys already know that are on the class right now, but this is going to go on our YouTube channel, so it's important to note. This lovely esthetician over here, that is our beautiful Aunt Ilike, who is the founder and creator of Ilike Organic Skincare. The gentleman holding the jars there is Aunt Ilike's son, Ferenc, who currently runs the helm of the company over in Hungary. What he is holding there are the jars of fruit pulps, which is kind of the essence of what our products really stand for. Our products are all formulated from whole fruit pulps. So the herbs, vegetables, and other herbal ingredients that go in our products get ground down to a pulp. They go into the jars that he is holding there, and they go through that fermentation process. We are certified under the Hungaria Garancia, which is the Hungarian farm certification, as well as a certification through the BDIH standard, and we're running through Cosmos, which is a newer European standard as well. So these are all standards of efficacy that we follow that are incredibly stringent, but ultimately what they're looking for is that we use organic and natural pieces to create our products, and we have products that do what they say they're going to do. So that is, pretty key, pretty important things, and something to keep in mind as we go through today's lesson. We have over 120 products for face and body, and these are a lot of them, not necessarily even all of them because I ran out of room, but many of the products that we carry, you'll see on the screen here. I bring this up because it's important to note that we're a company who these products were created by a professional for professionals, and we don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach to skincare. Everyone's skin is different and has different needs, but there are also fundamentals that really help with the framework of making the decision of what products you should use on what person. And that's what today is really kind of all about when it comes to kind of the balance of the acid mantle and the skin's microbiome. If you have questions that you are really I don't get what you're saying and you want to know right now, I want you to put those in the chat field as we go through today's webinar. If you have a question that you just want me to answer at some point, put that in the question and answer, and I will go through all of those questions at the end. But if you have things as we go that are really, really important, I do want to answer those because ultimately today is about you and not me. I know these things, you might too, but either way, it's a great topic. It's a great thing for you guys to keep in mind during your services with Ilike. To begin with, it's really important that we address what I'm talking about when I talk about the acid mantle. The acid mantle, as defined by many a textbook, is essentially the thin film of the skin surface composed of lipids from oil and amino acids from sweat. And along with the microbiome, which is the matrix of the living organisms, create our healthy skin barrier. So kind of simply put, it's going to keep good things like moisture in your skin and bad stuff like bacteria and pollution and viruses that we don't want to see in our skin out. It's kind of like wearing a mask. You need it to keep things out of your body and out of your skin. Even more simply put, it is a combination of the oil, the water, and the bacteria that live in those things on the surface of your skin that comprise this barrier to protect your skin. There are over 1,000 kinds of bacteria that live in our skin. Not just bacteria, but over 1,000 kinds. Most of them live on the surface of the skin in the superficial layer of the epidermis. So that is, you know, their exterior pieces. You'll see things like viruses and fungus work their way into like the shafts for the hair and the sebum glands and sweat glands. But bacteria primarily live on the surface. Bacteria are really smart. They are going to look for the most ideal environment for them to live in. They're not going to, you know, go, oh, this is kind of dry, but I'll try to make this work. They're going to look for kind of the oilier, more damp places to thrive and live in. So that's ultimately how we kind of come up with problems of bacterial kind of infection or festering bacteria within the pore, is because they're going to seek out the place that has oil and water for them to thrive in. So that's very important to remember. Now, the kinds of bacteria, what you see in someone's biome, can really vary on a lot of different factors. It can vary based on the host defenses, so your body's natural ability to fight the bacteria and viruses that live on the skin surface. There are variations based on sun exposure, temperature, oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio, skin pH, moisture, the other microorganisms that live in your biome, genetics. All of those things are factors that can affect what bacteria live in your skin, or on your skin rather. You know, some of those things are things that clearly we cannot control. I cannot change the weather no matter how much I may want to. I cannot change my genetics no matter how much I may want to. But there are things that we certainly can control, such as the pH of our skin. That's something that we can address through skincare and through different techniques within our facials. There are, you know, things that we can do to limit our sun exposure. We can add things to our skin to provide more moisture. So those are really kind of the key points that we want to really address and look at as professionals in this industry. Before I move on to this part, because I kind of jumped a little fast, skin pH, you'll see very big. There's a reason for that. The pH, or the potential for hydrogen that exists in our skin, is very, very important. We want our skin to be semi-acidic, sitting between 4.5 and 5.5 pH. So that means that there's just a slight acidity to that veil over our face. That means that we are going to kill some of the more dangerous bacteria and viruses, things that live on our skin, to really kind of eliminate potential problems. There are a lot of different kinds of bacteria, but among them, there are 5 that are very prevalent. The P. acne bacteria, this right up here, those are going to be kind of some of the most prominent things that we deal with in a person's skin. These are acne-causing bacteria. So they will seek out sebum and really kind of make their home in the pores if the skin is not balanced. Streptococcus pyogenes are like flesh-eating bacteria, which I know sounds terrifying, but you know, we know that those exist. You'll see the Staphylococcus epidermis and eris. Those are things that, as long as our skin is healthy, honestly don't do a whole lot, but they do exist on our skin. Same with the Corynebacterium. And there are, again, over 1,000 kinds of bacteria, but these are 5 that are kind of the most prominent types. Now, I mentioned that the Streptococcus pyogenes are flesh-eating bacteria. One of the things that's really interesting about that to me is that technically Lactococcus lactis, which is a bacteria that produces lactic acid, was originally classified as a Streptococcus pyogeny. So Lactococcus lactis, which is this precursor bacteria that emits lactic acid just kind of in its natural life cycle. That's kind of one of the most prominent groupings of bacteria that are used within skincare. They do help to kind of remove dead skin. So they really are a flesh-eating bacteria. So that's an interesting thing to take with you today. A lot of times your probiotic ingredient within skincare really is kind of a flesh-eating bacteria, which is kind of terrifying sounding, but actually very cool. Now, we use Lactococcus ferment lysate in our products that contain probiotics. So Lactococcus ferment lysate is actually one of the more popular probiotic ingredients that you will see in skincare. A lot of the top probiotic products, that's what they use. It's what we use in all of our probiotic-based products at ilike, but same with many other companies. I want you to take away today, if nothing else, that if you are using a probiotic product, it should have a living organism in it. If that probiotic is for your skin, then it should be a gram-positive bacteria. Gram-positive bacteria is what is able to live on the surface of your skin. I talked about how there are so many different kinds of bacteria, but nearly all of them that are able to live topically in that environment of, sweat, oil, they are going to be gram-positive. Gram-negative bacteria is something that will thrive a little bit better internally, so like in your gut. And I bring that up because I know that we are not the only brand that everyone that is interested in our products carry. But I do want you to have that fundamental knowledge in case you're ever, interested in other probiotic pieces that another brand may carry. Remember that it needs to have a gram-positive bacteria or it's kind of nonsense, right? Like the definition of a probiotic, very, very basically put, is a living organism that has a skin benefit. Or if it's an internal probiotic, then one that would have a gut benefit, but it's a beneficial living organism. So without that, you don't have one. And there are some prevalent brands that have probiotic claims on products, but don't actually contain bacteria. When you are looking for a probiotic in the product, there are some simple things to look for. I highlight Lactococcus ferment lysate again because it is one of the most popular probiotic ingredients in our industry. But there are also things like Bifida ferment lysate, Lactobacillus, Streptococcus thermophilus ferment, Lactobacillus ferment lysate. You'll notice a common theme with all of these things, along with the bacteria that I named earlier. Almost all of them have the words coccus or bacterium. There are ferment lysates that those probiotics exist within. You'll find the phrasing of bacillus, or coccus. These are all signs that there is a living bacteria within the product, which is very important because without that, again, it's not truly a probiotic. On the flip side, it's also important to address some of the bacteria that we don't want to see, right? So those P. acne bacteria, we have to clear them somehow. That's when our antibacterial ingredients really come into play. Again, we're going to talk a lot about balance today. All of our probiotic products that we carry at ilike are going to be kind of the later stages of your skin routine. They are serums, moisturizers. There's the day and night treatment, which is meant to be the last step of a facial or night chain routine. That's the idea. You want that bacteria to be introduced at the end because frankly, there are so many antibacterial ingredients used within our products that if you're using, a strong antibacterial afterwards, what are you going to do? You're going to kill that bacteria, right? So a lot of our antibacterial ingredients that you'll find in ilike products are going to be like the calendula, lavender, lemon. Ichthymol is a very potent antibacterial ingredient. sulfur, tomato, honey, horsetail, paprika, clove oil, castor oil, yarrow, and volcanic ash. So that's a lot of different things that are antibacterial. There's a reason that we use them though, and why we use a variety. A lot of products that you will find in the skincare market that address kind of the antibacterial focus of the skin, a lot of them have things like clay or tea tree oil or witch hazel. Those are things that we don't really use because those things can have kind of a detrimental effect on the amount of water that the skin holds, right? Things like alcohol, for example, as well, those can help evaporate some of the water out of the skin. That's bad. We want all of the water to stay where it needs to be. Otherwise, our skin looks, dry and sad. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we talk more about skin hydration after we finish up with bacteria and antibacterials. But it's important to remember, A, if you're using something that's antibacterial, you need to probably introduce some good bacteria following that. B, that when you're using something antibacterial, try to use something that's not going to limit the amount of skin hydration that is kind of left over. And if you have to, make sure that we're introducing a more hydrating piece following, that water drawing piece. Now, our products, again, that use a probiotic go towards the end of your routine or at the end of the facial. We have our probiotic serum or the soothing herb serum. We have the probiotic moisturizer and the probiotic day and night treatment. The day and night treatment is our first overnight cream mask. So kind of what that does, you put it on in a medium thick layer. You let it sit for about 20 minutes, pat in any excess, and then you sleep in it. Again, it's a product that you want to leave on. If you cleanse following a probiotic piece, especially with something antibacterial, which nearly every cleanser is, you're just going to kill that bacteria. You're going to kill, including the good ones that you've introduced via the probiotic. So that's kind of where these become daily or weekly use products. It's also important to note, however, that you do not need all of the probiotic pieces at once. One probiotic product is a proper supplement for a person. They do not need to use the serum and the moisturizer. One thing is enough. Now, with our antibacterial pieces, you'll notice that most of them come before your serum or moisturizer. Again, it's because it is very, very important that as we kind of strip away some of the bad things in the skin, that we have something to kind of bring in a supplement for the water loss that can happen when you're using strong antibacterial agents. So we have Ichthymol within like the mineral exfoliating wash, the mattifying serum, the herbal clay spot treatment, and the herbal Ichthymol and herb mask. Ichthymol is a very, very, very potent antibacterial agent, as is sulfur, which you'll find in the sulfuric exfoliator, the sulfuric balancing serum, and the sulfuric moisturizer. Now, you may note that we do have two pieces that go on kind of very last that are strongly antibacterial, and those are the sulfuric wet moisturizer and the apple and lemon wet moisturizer. That really, because again, antibacterial, you might want to bring some bacteria to the skin. These are for the person who has like a lot of bacteria, a lot of congestion. If you have that client who, no matter how many extractions you do, they are going to be congested very soon after. A lot of times that is a sign that there is too much bacterial growth. And because of that, they may need to use a more persistent antibacterial routine. So that's where those moisturizers would come into play. For your general person who, might not be so broken out, those might not be the best choice because we want the bacteria to, the good bacteria to still live by the end of the facial routine. Now that kind of is the bacterial, antibacterial side of things, but that's only like a small piece of the puzzle. We really have to look at what water and oil do for our skin as well to really get a good idea of how things go well and how they go wrong with bacteria. Now, the first thing that I think that really has to be addressed before you can really do much of anything else is skin hydration. And by hydration, we mean the amount of water that is contained within the skin. That can really vary by a lot of things and things that change a lot throughout the year. One of the big ones is heating and air conditioning. Those are both things that tend to dry the skin. Harsh skincare, things that contain a lot of alcohols. Again, it's going to evaporate out a lot of the water in your skin. It's not something that we worry about as much with ilike, but there are products out there that can be a little bit harsh, and it's important to make sure that your client understands that as well. I have had numerous people that I have worked with over my career who they love a cleanser, they love a toner from a different brand, and that's their choice. But it's important that they understand that if that is something that is kind of drawing water away from their skin, it's a big part of the problem and can affect what we need to do kind of with everything else that they are going to put on their skin to accomplish their goals. Caffeine, water intake, lack of sleep, hot showers, weather, aging, these are all things that can affect the amount of water that our skin holds. But the great thing is there are really, really great ingredients to help that. Without those kind of water adding ingredients though, what you'll find is more noticeable lines, dry and itchy skin, a dull complexion, even the evenness of your tone. So like some redness is going to occur just because your skin needs water. One of the most prevalent ingredients in skincare that helps to provide water to the skin is going to be hyaluronic acid. That is not rocket science. I'm sure all of you are well aware of that. But we still have to talk about it, right? Hyaluronic acid binds to 100 times its weight in water. So if this green droplet is our hyaluronic acid, all of those blue droplets are what it has the potential to kind of draw into the skin. Now, is that saying that our skin will like indefinitely continue to pull in water and hydrate? Of course not. That's, an unrealistic expectation of what skincare can do. But is it going to be one of the better ingredients for drawing water into your skin and holding it there? Absolutely. But, if you're like me, when people are like talking about botanicals and what they do for your skin, and then they start throwing things out there that are chemical compounds like hyaluronic acid, that drives me insane. So I did a lot of digging to kind of look into really the botanical basis of hyaluronic acid in most people's skincare, and then of course within our skincare here at ilike. It is very prominent to use things like soy, wheat, corn, and algae to produce hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid really, though, can come from a couple different sources. The original and the only way you can do it without kind of a process is to pull it from a rooster comb. That is like terrible and not something that we would ever do just because we love animals, and that's just like grossly unethical in my humble opinion. So the way to kind of draw hyaluronic acid more from a botanical source is through what's called a bacterial fermentation process. So you take these raw ingredients, you ferment them with a bacteria. When that bacteria ingests these raw materials, it releases hyaluronic acid. So it's very similar to how, for example, our Lactococcus ferment lysate works. That bacteria exists on our skin and lives there, and as it works and lives, it releases lactic acid. So that's ultimately what that probiotic does. It releases lactic acid to smooth the skin, break down impurities, dead skin cells, all the things that kind of congest and make the skin look a little less than, a little unhappy. Much like that, we're taking a bacteria, feeding it these raw ingredients, and then that releases hyaluronic acid. That's not something that can truly be kind of continually done on the skin surface, because in order for that to happen, it has to be actively ingesting these chemicals. So we just take that hyaluronic acid from that release, and that's what goes into the products. We specifically do that fermentation process with terra tree seeds, and it's a special kind of marine algae. But hyaluronic acid isn't where it stops when it comes to water-locking, hydrating ingredients that we use at ilike. One of the most prominent hydrating masks that we use is the cucumber and parsley mask. Cucumber and parsley is a hyperpigmentation focused mask, but cucumber is also a very high concentration of water. So especially if you put down like Hyaluronic Elixir or one of the boosters that contain a lot of hyaluronic acid, it's great to put those on the skin and then use the cucumber mask and allow that hyaluronic acid to kind of pull those water molecules in from the cucumber into your skin. Another great option, we have the peptide products. So Peptide Therapy is a combination of aloe and ginkgo. Aloe, as I think everyone knows, is a calming, soothing, hydrating ingredient that is very lightweight. So that's another source that we do use to provide more of that water hydration. You'll also find it in like the fenugreek gel, the 7 herb mask. We use aloe in the stone crop toner. All of those are great hydrating pieces. And again, when we talk hydration, we're talking adding water to the skin. Also within the Peptide Therapy collection, we have the pea peptide. The peptide from peas has this great innate ability to lock moisture into the skin and kind of control that moisturization so that your skin is more soft, hydrated, plump, and full. Those pieces also contain hexapeptide 11, which stimulates the production of collagen. That's not such a hydration factor, but definitely a great added bonus for sure. We also use hollyhock in a lot of our products. That's a very popular ingredient that you'll see within our industry. It's called like Athleya rosea if you look in the ingredient deck. We use that in the Botanical AHA peel, the St. John's wort eye cream. It's also one of the ingredients in the Hungarian paprika gel treatment. We use this in all of those pieces because hollyhock is kind of like a moisture sponge. So in your peeling process, for example, with Botanical AHA, you're putting that thin layer of this peel that contains hollyhock over your entire face. The hollyhock within that peel is going to help catch the water that naturally releases from your skin when you do a peel. Because when you do a peel, moisture does escape because it does create some micro tears within the skin, typically. So that's kind of where that ingredient comes in to make that peel more of a hydrating option. Our hydration heroes, starting with hyaluronic acid, are going to be the hyaluronic telomerase complex products. Using hyaluronic acid, those have shown about a 12% reduction in wrinkles over 3 weeks. So that's super fast and it's a great result. We also have the Hyaluronic Elixir, which has shown a 19%, or no, it's either 19 or 21%, about a 20% reduction though, of lines and wrinkles in the skin in about 4 weeks. The boosters are new for us. So those go on as kind of a pre-serum step. They are like a water light pre-serum. Each is packed with hyaluronic acid. They also contain some vitamin F, which helps with regulating the kind of just regular skin health. And then they each have kind of an additional piece. So like the Rejuvenation Booster is our natural vitamin A alternative. So they have the provitamin A, beta carotene, which, as we know, vitamin A can like do that lovely thing where you overdose and it creates reactivity and problems in the skin. As a provitamin A, beta carotene converts only as the skin needs it. So it's a great retinol alternative. The Vita C is the one that kind of sits in the normal to oily range. It does have a slight antibacterial base. It's still packed with that hyaluronic acid. It has tons of vitamin C, and it's shown a lot of reduction of redness and evening of tone in clinical study. I believe it was about a 20% reduction in redness in about 90% of participants. So that's incredible and something to really think about right now as we're going into the spring and everyone wants that kind of beautiful glowing complexion. That's one of the, it's a great way to help get there is by restoring this healthy balance to the microbiome. And then the firming is, as the name implies, more the hydrating firming option. Caffeine elicits a natural catalyzing firming effect. There's also hyaluronic acid in the Soothing Herbs collection, all of the Peptide Therapy. It's also in the probiotic piece, or let's see, the probiotic serum and moisturizer contain hyaluronic acid as well. Tons and tons of pieces that contain hyaluronic acid to choose from to help lock that moisture into your skin. Well, initially. Once the water is there though, how do we keep it from escaping? You can know how to put water in the skin all day long, but ultimately what it comes down to is oil content. The lipids, or kind of the fatty pieces of the oils that exist in product, are what helps to create this kind of lipid chain to prevent water loss. So the question's not really if we need oil, but rather what oil we need and how much. Without oil, this does not happen. This barrier that you see over to the side here, which means that all of that water can just kind of escape. That's part of why we do not really offer an oil-free moisturizer at Ilike Organic Skincare, because at the end of the day, everyone needs at least some oil in order to kind of enforce this lipid barrier to kind of protect your skin to the best that it can. So like, how does that happen, right? Well, again, first we need to make sure we have that great hydrating base. And I'm gonna go to a bigger camera for a little bit of a demo here. So we've put the water in our skin. This is just regular water that I have put in a glass. What happens when we add oil to water? I think we all know it separates, right? Well, here's the part we don't really think about too much. Because oil sits a little bit more topically, or because oil is a larger molecular structure, it's going to sit more topically. It's going to stay up at the top of the water. Well, if you add just a couple of drops, it's really hard to kind of see, but it just kind of is a little bit. It's not really easy. It hasn't created that full barrier. There's not enough oil to trap all of that moisture in. There's going to be separations. The water is still going to be able to evaporate from our skin. However, when we add enough oil, it becomes far more clear that there is a full layer of oil sitting on top of the moisture and locking that all into our skin. Likewise, we as people need enough oil that there is at least a slight barrier over the entire face. Because if there is not enough oil to sit just ever so slightly topically, and I don't mean that everyone needs to be an oil slick, because that's not true. That's just not what everyone wants to feel like, right? But you do need enough oil. And that's kind of where moisturizer comes into play within our skin routine, because we're not talking about like the ultra lightweight essential oils that help provide skin benefits within the products. We are talking, when we talk about these great oils that provide that lipid barrier, we're talking about the thick oils that really provide more consistency for the product. So things like shea butter and castor oil, those really, really heavy oils that we experience in skincare, are going to be best for the most lipid deficient individual. So that person who you see tons of dry patches, or that person who has a lot of acne. Those heavier oils are going to be more protective and more important within that person. Grapeseed oil is kind of the next weight down. So that would be kind of what you expect to see in the grape stem cell solutions products, in the Q10 serum. Those are a little bit on the kind of medium to heavy point, a little bit fattier, so that we are providing a little bit further protection to the skin. Most of our products, though, the more lightweight products, the whipped pieces, they're going to contain a combination of, or at least one of, corn germ oil, sesame oil, or sunflower oil. And those are all kind of like ultra lightweight oils that you can almost barely feel. So the calendula and the yarrow, those are a corn germ oil base. They're super lightweight. So as long as you're only using a few drops to kind of provide more of a base for that oil on your skin, more of a foundation for that protection, it only takes like 2 or 3 drops to just kind of warm in your hands, lightly tap over, and begin to enforce that lipid barrier. That really gives kind of the rest of the oils in your moisturizer something to latch on to. So that's where oil concentrates kind of enter that mix. Not everyone needs an oil concentrate though. If there's still, if someone is on the normal to oily side, they might just need a moisturizer to really lock everything in. That's perfectly appropriate too. It's all about knowing kind of how dry, how kind of oil deficient, lipid deficient that individual is, and providing enough to make sure that they can lock in all the moisture that you add. So again, grape stem cell solutions has a ton of grapeseed oil in it. Those are great pieces for someone who is a little bit more oil deficient. We have the oil concentrates. Again, Q10 is going to be more for your most lipid deficient person, whereas the other two are literally almost anyone can use. We also have, it should be the Nettle Exfoliating Wash is our foaming cleanser that has kind of the most oil deposit to it for someone who does need a little more give. And the Keratin Essentials pieces are very rich in shea butter, so that's a great option as well. Now, that's kind of the basis of, first we lay down our foundation of hydration. We need to supply bacteria to keep our skin smooth and clear, and we need oil to lock everything in. I haven't seen any questions pop in on the Q&A. Does anyone have questions that I can answer for you today? You can put those in chat or Q&A. It's okay either way. I'm watching both. But otherwise, thank you guys again for joining me. I do appreciate your time, and I hope that today has been, a good science-y class day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys another time. Until next time.